Captain Jake Morrison stood at the viewing port of Harmony Prime, watching the distant stars through the massive transparent walls of the Galactic station. The metal floor beneath his boots hummed with the energy of 1,000 different alien technologies working together. Ships from across the galaxy docked at the station's countless ports, bringing representatives from species he could barely pronounce the names of. Today was different, though. Today, the emergency klaxons had been sounding for 3 hours straight, and every alien in the station moved with urgent purpose. Every alien except those in the council chamber, where Jake had just spent the most frustrating morning of his military career. Lieutenant Amy Parker approached him, her tablet glowing. With incoming messages, her face showed the same mix of anger and disbelief that Jake felt burning in his chest. "Sir, the latest reports from the Kepler system just came in," she said, keeping her voice low. "The asteroid field is moving faster than they first calculated. Impact in 69 hours, not 72. Jake turned away from the stars and looked at his aide. Amy had been with him for 2 years, ever since Earth had gained its seat on the Galactic Council. She had learned to read the political games these aliens played, but she had never learned to accept them. 3 hours less to save 2 billion lives, Jake said. What did the council decide in their emergency session? Amy's jaw tightened. They voted to form a subcommittee to study the proper protocols for intervention in sovereign system disasters. The subcommittee will report back in 48 hours. 48 hours. Right. Jake felt the words like a physical weight. 48 hours to decide if they should help save an entire world. The door to the council chamber opened behind them, and Admiral Zethkar emerged. The Vorthan scales gleamed under the station's artificial lighting, his yellow eyes fixed on Jake with what might have been amusement. "Captain Morrison," the Admiral said, his voice carrying the hissing accent of his species. "I trust you understand the Council's decision. These matters require proper consideration."
Oh.
Jake faced the alien officer. Zethkar stood nearly 8 feet tall, his reptilian features giving him an intimidating presence that had cowed many human diplomats. But Jake had faced down enemy warships and planetary bombardments. A talking lizard did not scare him. "Admiral, with respect, 2 billion Eldari civilians are going to die while you consider protocols." Zethkar's head tilted slightly. "The Eldari chose to live in a system with unstable asteroid fields. Their poor planning does not constitute an emergency for the rest of us." "A rogue black hole pushed those asteroids off course," Amy interjected. "No one could have predicted that." "Irrelevant," came another voice. Ambassador Cleonth approached them, her insectoid form clicking across the metal floor. The hive mind representative's compound eyes reflected the station's lights like fractured mirrors. "The Council has established procedures for such situations. We cannot simply ignore established law because of emotional appeals." Jake looked between the two aliens. "Emotional appeals? We're talking about genocide." "We are talking about proper galactic governance," Cleoth replied. "Your species has been part of this council for only 5 years. You do not yet understand the complexities of managing a galaxy-spanning civilization. I understand that while you debate, people die." Zethkar's tongue flicked out briefly. "This is exactly the problem with your species, Captain. You act without thinking. You make decisions based on primitive emotional responses rather than logical analysis. The Vorthay Military Command requires 96 hours minimum to assess any military intervention," Cleonth added. "The Crystalline Collective needs 120 hours to commune with their homeworld for guidance. My own people require 168 hours to achieve consensus across our 17 colony worlds." Jake stared at them. "And how long do the Eldari have?" "That is not our concern," Zethkar said. "They are not members of the Confederation. They chose isolation." "They chose peace," Jake shot back. "They're farmers and artists. They don't have military fleets or planetary defense systems." "Then perhaps they should have joined the Confederation when invited," Cleoth said. "Consequences follow choices." Amy stepped forward. "Sir, we're receiving direct transmissions from Kepler 44 to B. The Eldari government is begging for help. They're evacuating their cities, but they don't have enough ships to move everyone off-world." Jake pulled out his personal communicator. "Patch me through to their prime minister." A holographic display appeared, showing the face of an Eldari female. Her species looked remarkably human, with pale blue skin and large, expressive eyes. Tears streamed down her face as she spoke. "Please, Captain Morrison, we know humans have asteroid mining equipment. We know your ships can move large objects through space. We are not warriors or politicians. We are simply people who want to live." The transmission cut to images of Eldari cities. Children played in parks while their parents worked in vast gardens that stretched to the horizon. Art galleries displayed sculptures that seemed to capture light itself. Libraries held millions of books, written in flowing script that looked like music made visible. All of it would be dust in 69 hours. Captain Zethkar said, "You cannot seriously be considering unauthorized intervention." Jake closed the communicator and looked at the two aliens. Then he looked at Amy, who nodded slightly. "The council session is adjourned until tomorrow," Jake said. "I have some calls to make." Captain Morrison, Cleonth said, her voice carrying a warning tone. "Any action taken without council approval would be considered a violation of galactic law. The consequences would be severe." Jake headed toward the human quarters of the station. "Ambassador, I've spent 20 years in the military. I've learned that sometimes the right thing to do is not the legal thing to do. Your species' recklessness will be your downfall," Zethkar called after him. Jake paused at the corridor entrance. "Maybe, but at least we'll go down fighting for something that matters." As he walked away, he could hear Amy's boots following him. Behind them, the two aliens began discussing the paperwork required to file a formal complaint against human diplomatic conduct. 69 hours and counting. Jake had work to do. Jake Morrison walked into the Human Communication Center aboard Harmony Prime. The room buzzed with activity as technicians worked at dozens of consoles, maintaining contact with human colonies across the galaxy. Amy Parker followed close behind. Already pulling up fleet deployment data on her tablet, "Give me a direct line to Commander Lisa Brooks at the Titan shipyard," Jake said to the nearest technician. "Priority Alpha clearance." The technician's fingers flew across his console. Within seconds, a holographic display showed the face of a woman with short brown hair and sharp green eyes. Commander Brooks had the weathered look of someone who had spent years in deep space. "Jake, what's the situation?" Brooks asked without preamble. "Lisa, I need every ship you can spare. We have 68 hours to stop an asteroid field from wiping out Kepler 44b." Brooks raised an eyebrow. "The Eldari world? I thought the Galactic Council was handling that." "The Council is handling paperwork," Amy said. "They're forming committees." "While people die? How bad is it?" Brooks asked. Jake pulled up the sensor data on his communicator.
"Out of 2 billion civilians."
"The asteroid field has over 3,000 objects, some bigger than city blocks. Current trajectory puts them on direct collision course with the planet." Brooks was quiet for a moment, studying the data. "That's a hell of a deflection job. We need heavy industrial ships, gravity manipulators, maybe some controlled demolition work. Can you do it?" "Can I do it?" Brooks smiled grimly. "Jake, I've been moving asteroids since before these aliens figured out which end of a wrench to hold. The question is whether we're allowed to do it or not," Jake admitted. "The Council specifically ordered no intervention without proper authorization." Brooks' smile widened. "Well then, I guess it's a good thing I never learned to follow. Stupid orders. Give me 4 hours to round up ships and crews. Lisa, this could end your career. Hell, it could end all our careers." "Jake, I've got 3 grandkids back on Earth. When they ask me what I did during the war, I want to tell them I saved people, not that I filled out forms while good folks died." The connection ended, and Jake immediately opened another channel. "Get me Chief Tony Martinez at the Asteroid Belt Mining Consortium." Tony Martinez appeared on screen, his face covered in grease and his jumpsuit stained with hydraulic fluid. Behind him, massive mining ships moved through space like metal whales. "Captain Morrison, what can I do for you?" "Tony, I need your best ships and your best crews for an emergency asteroid deflection mission." "When and where?" Jake explained the situation. Martinez listened without interruption, occasionally nodding as he mentally calculated the technical requirements. "God, is doable," Martinez said finally. Risky as hell, but doable. Those Vorthon gravity manipulators work better than our old chemical rockets, but we'll need at least 12 heavy ships to handle the big rocks. The Galactic Council hasn't authorized this mission, Amy warned. Martinez shrugged. The Galactic Council doesn't sign my paychecks. Besides, my sister lives in the outer colonies. If aliens ever threatened her world, I'd want someone to help, her authorization or not. How long to mobilize? 6 hours? Maybe 5 if I cut some corners? I'll call in every favor I've got. Jake closed that connection and opened another. Get me Dr. Helen Wright at the Xenobiology Institute. Dr. Wright appeared on screen, her gray hair pulled back in a practical bun. Her laboratory behind her was filled with samples from dozens of different worlds. Captain Morrison, I assume. This is about the Eldari situation, Ellen. I need everything you know about their world. Geography, population centers, anything that might help us plan the deflection. The Eldari are a peaceful species, Wright said. They've spent centuries turning their world into a garden. Their cities are built around natural landscapes, not military considerations. They have no planetary defense systems, no evacuation protocols for anything this massive. What about their government? Barely exists. They make decisions through consensus, community by community. It's beautiful in peacetime, but useless in a crisis like this. Jake nodded. Will you come with us? You might need someone who understands their culture. Wright was already reaching for her coat. Captain, I've studied 17 different alien species. The Eldari are the closest thing to saints this galaxy has produced. If we let them die because of bureaucratic nonsense, we don't deserve to call ourselves civilized. Over the next 2 hours, Jake's communication center became the nerve center of the largest unauthorized military operation in human history. Calls went out to every human colony, every mining station, every merchant fleet. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Captain Ben Rodriguez volunteered his entire patrol squadron. My boys have been itching for some real action anyway. The new Singapore Mining Collective offered their heavy haulers. Those rocks won't move themselves. Even civilian merchants stepped forward. Captain Kate Sullivan, who ran supplies to the outer colonies, volunteered her cargo haulers. You can carry equipment, supplies, whatever you need. Amy coordinated the logistics, her tablet displaying ship positions, fuel requirements, travel times, and real-time streams of data. Sir, we're looking at over 200 vessels participating. 15,000 volunteers. Any word from Earth Command? Admiral Davis is asking for a full briefing. She wants to know if you've lost your mind. Jake smiled. Tell her I'll explain later. Right now, I need her to make sure our supply lines stay open. The communication center door opened and Ambassador Elena Vasquez walked in. The senior Earth diplomat looked tired and worried. Like the Galactic Council is furious. They're threatening sanctions against Earth if you proceed with this operation. Let them threaten. The Vorthon Empire is mobilizing ships to intercept your fleet. They're calling this an act of war. Jake turned to face her. Lena and ours, 2 billion people, are going to die unless someone acts. The Council had their chance to be heroes. They chose to be bureaucrats instead. And if you fail, if you make the situation worse, then at least we tried. At least we stood up and said that some things matter more than following orders. Vasquez was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. What do you need from the diplomatic corps? Keep the politicians busy. Give us time to reach the asteroid field before they can stop us. Consider it done. As she left, Amy approached with the latest fleet status. Sir, Commander Brooks reports all ships will be ready to depart in 3 hours. Chief Martinez has his mining fleet assembled and loaded with equipment. Jake looked at the tactical display showing human ships converging from across the galaxy. Merchant vessels, military ships, mining platforms, even a few exploration scouts. None of them had official orders. All of them had volunteered. Amy, send a message to all ship commanders. Tell them we're not just saving the Eldari. We're proving that when good people are in danger, humans don't wait for permission to do what's right. Yes, sir. What about the Council? Jake smiled. Let them file their complaints. We have work to do. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace 18 hours before the asteroid field would reach. Kepler 4-4 to B. Commander Lisa Brooks stood on the bridge of her flagship, the heavy cruiser Defiance, watching the tactical display with growing concern. "Jesus Christ," muttered Chief Tony Martinez over the communication channel. "That's not an asteroid field, that's a moving mountain range." Brooks had to agree. The sensor readings showed thousands of rocks tumbling through space in a chaotic dance of destruction. The largest asteroids measured over 5 kilometers across, massive chunks of iron and rock that could level entire continents. Smaller fragments, some no bigger than houses, filled the spaces between the giants like deadly confetti. "All ships, this is Commander Brooks," she broadcast to the fleet. "I'm transmitting updated sensor data now. Situation is worse than our initial reports indicated." Captain Ben Rodriguez's voice crackled through the communication system from his patrol ship. "Ma'am, we're reading over 4,000 individual objects. Some of these rocks are moving at incredible speeds." "I see it, Ben." "Tony, what's your assessment?" Chief Martinez had positioned his mining ships closest to the asteroid field, their heavy sensors mapping the debris in detail. "Lisa, this is going to be the toughest job I've ever tackled. The big rocks we can handle with gravity manipulators. But there are hundreds of middle-sized asteroids that are too small for the heavy equipment and too big to ignore." Dr. Helen Wright's voice joined the conversation from the science vessel where she was analyzing the asteroids' composition. "Commander, I'm seeing something interesting in the mineral analysis.
Ow.
These asteroids have high iron content, which means they'll respond well to magnetic fields. But there's also significant ice embedded in many of them." "What does that mean for us?" Brooks asked. "It means controlled explosions could work better than we hoped. The ice will create steam pressure. When heated, helping break the rocks apart from the inside." Brooks studied the tactical display. The human fleet had spread out in a defensive formation between the asteroid field and Kepler 4-2b, 200. Ships against 4,000 space rocks, with less than 18 hours to save a world. "All right, people, here's the plan," Brooks announced. "We divide into 3 teams. Alpha Team, that's Tony's heavy ships, will focus on the largest asteroids. Use the gravity manipulators to slow them down and push them off course. Bravo Team, that's Ben's military ships, will handle the medium-sized rocks with controlled explosions. Charlie Team, all remaining vessels, will deploy energy nets to catch the smaller debris." Commander came a new voice. Captain Kate Sullivan's cargo hauler had been retrofitted with defensive systems for the mission. "What about the really small stuff? There are thousands of fragments that could slip through. Kate, that's where Charlie Team comes in. Your ships will form a screen between the asteroids and the planet. Anything that gets past Alpha and Bravo teams, you stop with whatever you've got." "Understood, ma'am." Brooks looked at the countdown timer. 17 hours and 34 minutes. All teams begin operations. And remember, we're not just fighting rocks. We're fighting time. Tony Martinez guided his massive mining ship, the Iron Horse, toward the largest asteroid. The rock was a monster, nearly 6 kilometers long and 3 kilometers wide. Its irregular surface was scarred with craters from countless smaller impacts. "Bring us in close," Tony told his helmsman. "I want to kiss that ugly bastard." The Iron Horse deployed its gravity manipulator, a device originally designed for moving asteroid or in mining operations. The manipulator created an artificial gravity field that could push or pull objects weighing millions of tons. "Power levels are good," reported Tony's engineer. "Gravity field is stable. Begin deflection sequence." The massive asteroid began. Too slow, its trajectory shifting slightly as the artificial gravity took hold. But Tony could see the problem immediately.
Oh.
The rock was too big, moving too fast. Even with maximum power, the gravity manipulator could only nudge it slightly off course. "All Alpha Team ships converge on the big bastard," Tony ordered. "We need every manipulator working together." 11 other heavy ships moved into position. Around the asteroid, their combined gravity fields created a web of force that began to have a real effect. Slowly, painfully, the giant rock started to change direction. "It's working," Tony's engineer reported. "Deflection angle increasing. Keep it up." We need at least 15 degrees of deflection to miss the planet. Meanwhile, Captain Ben Rodriguez led Bravo team against the medium-sized asteroids. His patrol ships were fast and maneuverable, armed with precision weapons designed for surgical strikes. Target the asteroid designated Baker 7, Rodriguez ordered. Aim for the stress fractures Dr. Wright identified. The ships opened fire with focused energy beams. The weapons struck the asteroid's surface, instantly vaporizing ice deposits and creating steam explosions that cracked the rock from within. "Good hit," Rodriguez called. "The rock is breaking up. Move to the next target." But for every asteroid they destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. The debris field was vast and time was running out, Commander Brooks Rodriguez reported. "We're making progress, but it's not enough. There are too many of them." Brooks watched the tactical display with growing concern. The human ships were performing magnificently, but the simple mathematics of the situation were overwhelming. They had too few ships and too little time. "Tony, how's that big rock coming?" "We've got it deflected 8 degrees so far," Martinez replied, "but we need 15 to clear the planet." "Dr. Wright, any brilliant ideas?" Scientists had been studying the asteroid field's movement patterns. "Actually, yes. Commander, the asteroids aren't random. They're in clusters held together by gravitational attraction. If we can identify the key asteroids in each cluster and deflect those, the others might follow." "Explain." "Think of it like dominoes. Push the right one, and the whole line falls. We don't need to move every asteroid individually. We need to move the ones that will cause the others to move." Brooks felt a spark of hope. "Can you identify these key asteroids?" "I'm working on it now. Give me 10 minutes. But they didn't have 10 minutes to spare. Long-range sensors were picking up new contacts approaching from galactic space. "Commander," reported the communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from Admiral Zethkar. The Vorthan fleet is demanding we cease operations immediately."
Oh, Brooks.
Looked at the tactical display showing Vorthon warships approaching their position. "How long until they reach us?" 4 hours, ma'am. 4 hours. The asteroids would impact the planet in less than 17 hours, but the Vorthon fleet would arrive in 4. If the aliens forced the humans to withdraw, billions of Eldari would die while bureaucrats filed paperwork. "All ships, this is Commander Brooks. We have company coming, and they're not here to help. We need to finish this job in the next 4 hours, or those people down there are dead." The response came immediately from every ship in the fleet. No complaints, no questions, just acknowledgement and determination. Tony Martinez pushed his ship's gravity manipulator to dangerous power levels. "Come on, you beautiful machine. Give me everything you've got." Captain Rodriguez ordered his ships to begin rapid-fire attacks on asteroid clusters. "Forget precision. We're going for volume." Captain Sullivan positioned her cargo ships in a desperate screen formation. "If anything gets past the others, we'll ram it if we have to." The battle against the asteroids intensified as the human fleet raced against 2 clocks, the countdown to impact and the arrival of the Vorthan fleet. Wright's voice cut through the chaos. "Commander, I've found them. I'm transmitting the coordinates of 17 key asteroids. If we can deflect these, the gravitational cascade should move most of the field." Brooks looked at the coordinates. 17 targets scattered across thousands of cubic kilometers of space. "All ships, new priority targets incoming. This is our shot, people. Make it count." 4 hours remained before the Vorthon fleet would arrive. Commander Lisa Brooks watched her tactical display as human ships raced to hit Dr. Wright's 17 target asteroids. The gravitational cascade theory was their only hope of clearing enough debris to save Kepler-4 for 2B. "Alpha Team, priority target Delta 9, Brooks ordered. "Tony, that's the big one holding the central cluster together." Chief Martinez guided the Iron Horse toward a massive asteroid that looked like a twisted piece of black metal. "I see it, Commander. This ugly mother is the size of a small moon. Can you move it?" "Not alone. I need every heavy ship we've got." Brooks coordinated the mining fleet as 12 ships surrounded the giant asteroid. Their gravity manipulators created overlapping fields of force, slowly wrestling with the massive rock. "Power levels are in the red," Martinez reported. "But the bastard is starting to move." On the other side of the battlefield, Captain Ben Rodriguez led his patrol ships against 3 medium-sized targets. These asteroids held smaller clusters in gravitational lock, and destroying them would free hundreds of rocks to drift harmlessly away from the planet. "Focus fire on target Hotel 6, Rodriguez commanded. "Hit it where the ice deposits are thickest." Energy beams lanced out from his ships, striking the asteroid's surface. Steam erupted from impact points as embedded ice flash-boiled. The rock shuddered, developed cracks, then split into 3 large pieces that tumbled away from each other. Direct hit. "The cluster is breaking apart." Dr. Helen Wright monitored the cascade effects from her science ship. "Commander Brooks, the gravitational mathematics are working. Delta 9's movement is pulling 47 smaller asteroids off course. How many more targets do we need to hit? At least 10 more for significant effect. We're running out of time." The countdown showed less than 4 hours until asteroid impact. But more immediately threatening were the Vorthon ships approaching fast from galactic space. Their advanced military vessels could reach the battlefield in less than an hour. "All ships, this is Commander Brooks. We're about to have unwelcome visitors. Continue the mission. If the Vorthines want to stop us, they'll have to go through us." Captain Kate Sullivan heard the announcement from the bridge of her converted cargo hauler. Her ship, the Lucky Strike, was positioned near Kepler 4 to catch any debris that slipped past the main deflection effort. "Ma'am," her communications officer reported, "we're receiving a direct transmission from the planet's surface." "Put it on screen." The holographic display showed Prime Minister Selwyn in what appeared to be an underground shelter. Behind her, Eldari civilians crowded together, their large eyes filled with fear and hope. "Captain Sullivan, we can see your ships in our sky," the Prime Minister said. "We know you are risking everything to save us." There are no words for such kindness to strangers. Sullivan felt her throat tighten. "Ma'am, we're not going to let you down." "Captain, our observatories show the asteroid field is changing course. Is it true? Are we saved?" Sullivan looked at her tactical display. The human fleet was making progress, but hundreds of dangerous fragments still threatened the planet. "We're working on it, ma'am. Keep your people in the shelters for now." The transmission ended, and Sullivan turned to her crew. "You heard the lady. Whatever gets past the others, we stop here. I don't care if we have to ram it with our own ship." Her crew nodded grimly. They were miners and cargo haulers, not warriors. But today they would fight like heroes. Meanwhile, the Vorthon fleet closed the distance to the battlefield. Admiral Zethkar stood on the bridge of his command ship, studying the human operations with cold reptilian eyes. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "the humans have deployed over 200 vessels. They are actively engaging the asteroid." "Field fools," Zethkar hissed. "They will destabilize the entire region with their reckless actions." "Sir, our long-range sensors show they are actually succeeding. The asteroid trajectories are changing." Zethkar's clawed hands gripped his command chair. "That is impossible. The Council determined that intervention was too dangerous.
Ease.
Primitives cannot succeed where we would fail. Admiral, what are your orders?" Zethkar stared at the tactical display showing human ships working desperately to save an alien world. Part of him wanted to see them fail, to prove that proper military planning was superior to human recklessness. But another part, a part he barely acknowledged, wondered if the humans might actually pull off the impossible. "Signal the human fleet," he ordered. "Demand they cease operations immediately." Back in the asteroid field, Commander Brooks received the Vorthon ultimatum while coordinating attacks on the remaining target asteroids. "Commander Brooks," came Admiral Zethkar's transmission, "you are ordered to withdraw your forces immediately. Your unauthorized intervention violates 17 sections of galactic law," Brooks continued, directing her ships while responding. "Admiral, with respect, we're a little busy right now saving 2 billion lives. Your actions threaten the stability of this entire star system. Withdraw now, or face the consequences." "What consequences? Are you going to shoot us while we're saving innocent people?" There was silence from the Vorthon ship. Zethkar had not expected such a direct challenge. Dr. Wright's voice cut through the tension. "Commander, We've hit 13 of the 17 targets. The cascade effect is accelerating. Most of the asteroid field is moving away from the planet. Most isn't good enough, Helen. What about the rest? There are still approximately 300 fragments on collision course. Too many for the remaining deflection time. Brooks studied the tactical display. 300 asteroids, each one, capable of devastating entire regions of the planet below. The human fleet had performed magnificently, but it might not be enough. All ships, this is Commander Brooks. We're switching to final protocol. Operation Shield Wall. Captain Rodriguez understood immediately. Ma'am, that's suicide. Ben, those people down there are counting on us. Position your ships between the remaining asteroids and the planet. Use your shields and point defense systems to destroy everything that gets through. Commander Tony Martinez protested. Our ships weren't designed to take that kind of punishment. Tony, we knew this was a one-way mission when we started. Are you with me? The response came from every ship in the fleet. Not words, but actions. The human vessels moved into position between the asteroid debris and Kepler-442b. They formed a living shield. Their own hulls the last barrier protecting an alien world. Admiral Zethkar watched in stunned silence as the human ships deliberately place themselves in harm's way. What are they doing, sir? They're using their own vessels as shields to protect the planet. That's insane. They'll be destroyed. Yes, sir. They know that. The first wave of asteroid fragments struck the human shield wall. Ships that had crossed the galaxy to help strangers absorbed impacts that would have leveled cities. Their shields flared and failed, their hulls cracked under the strain, but they held their positions. Captain Sullivan's lucky strike took a direct hit from a house-sized rock. The impact tore through her cargo holds, but her ship's bulk absorbed the energy that would have reached the planet. Hull breach on decks 3 and 4, her engineer reported. But we're still flying. Keep us in position, Sullivan ordered. More rocks incoming. Captain Rodriguez's patrol ship intercepted a cluster of smaller fragments, his point defense. Lasers working overtime to vaporize the debris. This is Rodriguez. We've stopped the fragments in Sector 7, but the cost was mounting. 3 human ships had been destroyed outright. 7 more were badly damaged. And still the asteroids kept coming. Dr. Wright coordinated the final defensive efforts while monitoring the planet below. Commander, the Eldari are broadcasting. They can see our ships being destroyed to save them. Let them see, Brooks replied as her own ship shuddered under asteroid impacts. Let them know that some people think life is worth more than following. Orders. The shield wall held. Against all odds, against military doctrine, against common sense, the human fleet stopped the asteroid bombardment. Not through superior technology or overwhelming force, through the simple willingness to sacrifice everything for strangers. When the last fragment had been destroyed or deflected, 23 human ships had been lost. 341 crew members had died. But Kepler-442b was safe. 6 weeks after the Kepler-442b mission, Captain Jake Morrison sat in a holding cell aboard Harmony Prime Station. The walls were bare metal, and the only furniture was a simple bench. He had been waiting for 3 hours to be escorted to the Galactic Tribunal, where he would face charges that could end not just his career, but humanity's place in galactic civilization. The door opened. And Ambassador Elena Vasquez entered with a grim expression on her face. "Jake, we need to talk," she said, sitting. Beside him on the bench, "The charges are worse than we expected." "How much worse?" "Violation of galactic sovereignty, unauthorized military action, breach of diplomatic protocols, and reckless endangerment of galactic stability. The prosecutor is demanding humanity be expelled from the Confederation and quarantined to Earth's solar system." Jake leaned back against the cold wall. "What about the 2 billion Eldari we saved?" Prosecution argues that the ends don't justify the means. They claim human actions set a dangerous precedent that threatens the entire galactic order. Our defense? Alina pulled out a tablet showing legal documents. We're arguing humanitarian necessity. But Jake, 17 different alien species are calling for sanctions against Earth. They're terrified that other species might start acting without permission. The door opened again, and 2 galactic security guards entered, a neutral species that served as peacekeepers for the tribunal. Their blue-skinned faces showed no emotion as they activated energy restraints around Jake's wrists. "Captain Morrison, you will come with us," one guard said, in heavily accented standard. They escorted Jake through the corridors of harmony, primed toward the tribunal chamber. Along the way, he passed dozens of alien beings, many of whom stopped to stare at the human who had defied the entire Galactic Council. The tribunal chamber was massive, with seating for representatives from over 200 species. At the center sat Judge Korthok the Wise, an ancient being whose species was older than human civilization. His gray skin looked like weathered stone, and his 4 eyes studied Jake with unsettling intensity. "Captain Morrison," Judge Korthok said in a voice like grinding rocks, "you stand accused of crimes against galactic law. How do you answer these charges?" Jake stood straighter. "Your Honor, I admit to every action I took. I organized the fleet, I coordinated the mission, and I gave the orders that saved Kepler-4 for 2B. A ripple of sound went through the chamber. Most aliens had expected denials and legal maneuvering, not a directed mission. The prosecutor stepped forward. Admiral Zethkar had been chosen to represent the Galactic Council's position. His reptilian features showed satisfaction as he addressed the court. "Your Honor, the defendant admits his guilt. His reckless actions violated sacred principles of galactic governance. Humans cannot be allowed to act as judge and jury for the entire galaxy." "What punishment do you seek?" Judge Korthok asked. "Complete expulsion of humanity from all galactic institutions. Quarantine of their species to prevent further contamination of proper galactic order." Judge Korthak turned to Alina Vasquez, who served as Jake's defense counsel. "And how does the defense respond?" Alina stood and activated a holographic display. "Your Honor, we call our first witness." The display showed Prime Minister Selwyn of the Eldari. The alien leader appeared tired but determined as she spoke from her homeworld. "Honored Judge, I speak for 2,300,000,000 Eldari citizens. Every one of us owes our life to Captain Morrison and the human fleet. When our world faced destruction, the Galactic Council debated while humans acted." Admiral Zethkar interrupted. "The Council was following proper procedure. Military intervention requires careful planning." Selwyn's large eyes focused on the Vorthan Admiral. "Admiral, how long would your careful planning have taken?" "A minimum of 96 hours for proper assessment. We had 68 hours. Before impact, your procedures would have made us all corpses." Judge Korthak raised one clawed hand for silence. "Continue, Prime Minister." "Your Honor, we officially petitioned to join the Galactic Confederation specifically because of human actions. Any civilization that produces beings willing to die for strangers deserves our highest respect." The chamber erupted in surprised voices. The Eldari had refused membership for centuries, preferring their peaceful isolation. Alina activated another display. "Your Honor, we call our second witness." A young Vorthon appeared on screen, his scales bright green instead of the dull brown. Of older adults, he wore the uniform of a junior diplomatic officer. "I am Subcommander Krextel of the Vorthon Diplomatic Corps," he said. "I speak against my own government's position." Admiral Zethkar hissed in anger. "This is outrageous. Junior officers cannot testify against official policy." Judge Korthok silenced him with a look. "The court will hear all relevant testimony." "Continue, Subcommander." "Your Honor, I witnessed the human fleet's actions at Kepler-442b. While my superiors debated, humans died to save lives. 341 humans gave their lives for people they had never met. This is not recklessness. This is nobility." The young Vorthan's image was replaced by another alien, then another. Alina had prepared dozens of witnesses, and each one told a similar story. A crystalline representative spoke of humans stopping a plague outbreak, while officials waited for proper authorization. A hive mind worker described human rescue operations. During a mining disaster, An elderly Corthoni remembered humans defending refugee convoys during a border war. In each case, Alina told the court, humans acted when others would not. They saved lives while bureaucrats filed paperwork, Admiral. Zethkar rose to object. These emotional appeals ignore the central issue. Humans refuse to follow established law. They act without authority, without consideration for consequences. What consequences? Came a new voice from the gallery. Judge Korthok looked up in surprise as a group of young aliens stood in the viewing section. They represented dozens of different species, all speaking in unison. What consequences? They repeated. 2 billion Eldari are alive because humans ignored your laws. Thousands of plague victims survived because humans didn't wait for permits. Children grew up with parents because humans acted instead of debated. An elderly crystalline official tried to silence them. Sit down. This court follows proper procedure. Proper procedure kills people, a young hive mind replied. We want to be like humans. We want to save lives, not file reports. The chamber dissolved into chaos as young aliens from across the galaxy voiced support for human actions. Their elders shouted for order, but the younger generation had found their voice. Judge Korthok called for recess, and security guards escorted Jake back to his holding cell. Alina followed, her expression unreadable. How do you think it's going? Jake asked. Honestly, I don't know. The law is clearly on their side. You did violate every protocol in the book. But something is happening out there. Do you see those young aliens? They're questioning everything their governments tell them. The Eldari wanting to join the Confederation because of human actions? That's unprecedented. The bench, Alina, even if they convict me, it was worth it. Those people are alive, Jake. This isn't just about you anymore. This trial is about whether the galaxy will change or stay the same. Whether beings will help each other or hide behind rules. The next morning, court resumed with more witnesses. The testimony continued for 3 days, with being after being describing times when humans had acted while others hesitated. But the most powerful moment came when Dr. Helen Wright took the stand. Your Honor, she said, I have studied 17 different alien species. I have learned your histories, your cultures, your values, and I have learned something important. What is that, Doctor? Every species in this chamber has stories of ancient heroes, beings who broke rules to save others, individuals who chose what was right over what was legal. You honor these heroes in your literature, your art, your religious teachings. Dr. Wright looked around the chamber. The only difference is that humans still produce such heroes. We haven't forgotten that sometimes the most important law is the law of compassion. When the testimony ended, Judge Korthok announced that the tribunal would deliberate for 24 hours before rendering judgment. Jake spent that night in his cell, wondering if he had doomed humanity's future in the galaxy. But when he thought of the Eldari children playing safely on their saved world, he knew he would make the same choice again. Judge Korthok the Wise entered the tribunal chamber exactly 24 hours after deliberations began. His 4 ancient eyes surveyed the packed gallery, where representatives from across the galaxy waited to hear humanity's fate.
Captain Jake.
Morrison stood between his guards, his face calm despite the weight of the moment. This tribunal has reached its decision, Judge Korthok announced, his voice echoing through the silent chamber. The defendant, Captain Jake Morrison, has admitted to violating galactic law. The evidence is clear and undisputed. Admiral Zethkar leaned forward in satisfaction. Ambassador Alina Vasquez gripped her legal tablet tightly. However, Judge Korthok continued, this tribunal must consider not only the letter of the law, but its spirit. The law exists to serve life, not to rule over it. The chamber stirred with confused murmurs. Captain Morrison, your actions violated 17 sections of Galactic statute. But your actions also saved 2,300,000,000 lives. This tribunal finds that the value of those lives outweighs the importance of bureaucratic procedure. Judge Korthok's gaze swept across the alien representatives. Furthermore, this tribunal has been presented with evidence of 47 separate incidents where human intervention saved lives, while official channels failed to act. In each case, humans chose compassion over compliance. Admiral Zethkar rose from his seat. Your Honor, this sets a dangerous precedent. If every species ignores law whenever they claim moral justification... Admiral, Judge Korthok interrupted. Sit down. This tribunal's not finished. The ancient judge activated a holographic display showing galactic statistics. In the past 5 years, the Galactic Council has debated 312 emergency situations. Of these, 49 resulted in significant loss of life due to delayed response. In contrast, human emergency interventions have resulted in 0 preventable deaths. The numbers hung in the air like an accusation against the entire galactic system. Therefore, Judge Korthok declared, this tribunal not only acquits Captain Morrison of all charges, but officially commends him and the human species for exemplary service to galactic civilization. The chamber erupted. Some aliens cheered. Others protested angrily. Admiral Zethkar stood frozen in shock, but Judge Korthok was not finished. Furthermore, this tribunal orders immediate implementation of the emergency response protocol. No longer will beings die while bureaucrats debate. When lives are at stake, action will be authorized immediately. Hey, this is outrageous, Admiral! Zethkar finally found his voice. The Council will never approve such changes. The Council has no choice, Judge Korthok replied. This tribunal's decision is final and binding. Captain Morrison, you are hereby appointed as the first director of Galactic Emergency Response. Your mission is to organize rapid intervention forces for future crises. Jake stood stunned as the energy restraints were removed from his wrists. Elena Vasquez smiled for the first time in weeks. Your Honor, Jake said, I accept the position. But I have conditions. The chamber fell silent again. Even Judge Korthok looked surprised. What conditions, Captain? First, the emergency response fleet must include ships and crews from every willing species. This isn't about human superiority. It's about beings working together to save lives. Several young aliens in the gallery nodded approvingly. Second, any species that contributes to emergency operations gets full voting rights in response decisions. No more bureaucratic delays when people are dying. And third, Judge Korthok asked. Third, we establish training programs to teach rapid response techniques to any species that wants to learn. Humans don't have a monopoly on courage or compassion. Judge Korthok considered the conditions. The tribunal accepts these terms. Captain Morrison, you have 1 year to establish the emergency response fleet. As the court session ended, Jake was surrounded by a crowd of aliens. Some wanted to shake his hand, others to argue with him, a few to join his new organization. Subcommander Krextel, young Vorthan who had testified against his own government, pushed through the crowd. Captain Morrison, sir, I formally request transfer to the emergency response fleet. What about your career in the Vorthon military? Krextal's green scales brightened. Sir, I'd rather have a short career saving lives than a long one pushing papers. Prime Minister Selwyn approached through a holographic communicator. Captain Morrison, the Eldari Confederation officially offers our support. We may not have military ships, but we have medical vessels and supply transports. Ma'am, we accept gratefully. Dr. Helen Wright joined the group, her face beaming with excitement. Jake, I've been analyzing the cultural data. 17 species have young populations that want to join emergency response teams. This could revolutionize galactic civilization. Over the following months, the transformation exceeded everyone's expectations. The emergency response fleet grew rapidly as beings from across the galaxy volunteered for service. Former enemies worked side by side, united by the simple goal of helping others. Admiral Zethkar, surprisingly, was among the first to request assignment to the new fleet. When Jake asked him why, the Vorthan admiral admitted, Captain, I've spent 40 years following orders and filing reports. I want to spend my remaining years doing something that matters. The first major test came 8 months later. A massive solar flare threatened 3 star systems with total communication, blackout, and radiation, poisoning for over 14 billion beings. In the old system, the crisis would have required weeks of committee meetings and impact studies. Instead, Admiral Jake Morrison received the alert and launched the emergency response fleet within 4 hours. The multi-species task force included human ships with radiation shielding, orphan medical vessels, crystalline communication relays, and Eldari supply transports. The operation was commanded from the bridge of Morrison's flagship, now called the Unity. His bridge crew included beings from 12 different species, all working together with the precision of a symphony orchestra. All ships. This is Admiral Morrison. He broadcast to the fleet of over 300 vessels. Solar flare impact in 6 hours. Standard emergency protocol is now in effect. Commander Lisa Brooks, now serving as Morrison's second-in-command, coordinated the evacuation efforts. Sector 7 evacuation is complete. 2 million civilians safely relocated. Dr. Wright monitored the scientific aspects from her research vessel. Solar flare intensity is increasing. We need to accelerate the timeline. Chief Tony Martinez led the engineering teams installing emergency radiation shelters on planets that couldn't be evacuated. Shelter construction is ahead of schedule. These new crystalline materials work better than anything we've used before. Subcommander Kreckstall managed communications between the various species ships. All vessels report ready status. The fleet is operating at maximum efficiency. When the solar flare struck, the emergency response fleet was ready. The radiation shields held, the communication network stayed online, and not a single life was lost. It was the largest coordinated rescue operation in galactic history, and it succeeded because beings from dozens of species had learned to work together without waiting for permission. Captain Kate Sullivan, now commanding her own emergency response squadron, summed up the mission in her final report. Today we proved that when good beings work together, there's no crisis too large to overcome. The success at the solar flare crisis became the template for future operations. The emergency response fleet grew to over 1,000 ships crewed by volunteers from 43 different species. They stopped wars, fought plagues, rescued disaster victims, and saved lives across the galaxy. But perhaps the most important change was cultural. Young aliens across the galaxy learned a new phrase that became popular in their schools and homes. When faced with someone in need, instead of asking for permission or checking regulations, they would say, "Don't wait for permission when people need help." Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the Unity, watching emergency response ships from dozens of species training together in space. Humans worked alongside Vorthons. Eldari served with crystalline beings, and former enemies had become trusted partners. Amy Parker, now serving as his chief of staff, approached with the daily reports. "Admiral, we have new requests for emergency response training from 6 more species. Also, the Galactic Council has officially adopted our rapid response protocols for all future crises." Jake smiled as he watched a group of young aliens from different species working together to repair a damaged ship. "Amy, remember when they said humans were too reckless to understand proper galactic diplomacy?" "Yes, sir. They said we were too impulsive and emotional." Turns out the galaxy needed a little more impulse and emotion. Sometimes the most important decision you can make is to stop thinking and start helping. A communication alert chimed and Amy checked her tablet. "Sir, we have a new emergency. Asteroid strike threatening a mining colony in the Outer Rim." Jake looked at the stars one more time, then headed for the bridge. "Alert the fleet, Amy. Looks like we have work to do."